Is that ambient noise? Is that just me?
That's my fan.
Yeah. Oh, I don't hear.
That's my fan, y'all. And I'm sorry if I don't have my fan, I will be melting in here.
No. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like I'm hearing fucking new noises. Oh, we're live.
Hey, what's up, our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the Geek Nation? You are watching the Cult Pop Podcast live stream. We used to do two different shows. There were Spoiler Alert, which is the comic book weekly discussion show, and then there was Gutter Talk, which is more of an umbrella, overarching conversation about comic books and pop culture and representation and all sorts of fun stuff. The stuff that happens in the gutters of the book, if you will, but we are melding them together. So we're just going to be, I think, the Cult Pop Podcast. I don't know. We're still figuring it out. But basically, we're mushing the shit together to bring you double the fun, double mint gum.
Isn't that double the shit?
With me this week is Len.
Hey, what's up? How you doing? Coming out of the shadows. What's up?
There he
I'll
is.
let your bat triple.
And Noel.
Hi, how you doing? I'm wondering about the metaphor of mashing shit together. And I think it's not awesome.
That's okay.
That's just a lot of poop.
A lot. And I'm Brian.
There he is.
JD said. But Noel, how would you feel about you know how sometimes when there's a comic and they've renumbered it a bunch of times, but then there's hitting a big milestone issue and they're like, hey, we're gonna now it's issue 700, right?
Like legacy numbering. So, legacy numbering. So it's like this is Cult Pop Podcast episode 1. Legacy number 701.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you could change whatever numbers you want to whenever you want because nothing matters.
All new, all different.
Exactly.
So yeah. Hi guys, we're here. We're going to talk about this week's comics, and later on we're going to have a conversation. Someone wrote in, and they had something interesting to say, so I thought it'd be cool to discuss it later on in the show. But first, we have letters. Oh, we have lots and lots and lots of letters. Don't sing! God damn it!
Oh, that's a big television.
How does it look, Christopher?
Who's got a big television? What?
Christopher St. Saucy Goodnight.
Oh.
It's got a 55-inch TV, and we are on it.
You could probably make out like all the spines of books and all the pictures in JD's wall over there.
It's a lot of inches. I always said I could use just like 1 or 2 more inches and I'd be happy. We have a letter from the Home Dad Abroad. So he had written in before and was like, hey, you guys should review Cerebus as part of your monthly book club discussion. And I said, that's a goddamn phone book. Can you pick something else? And he wrote me back. He said, all right, Jadles, you've worn me down. To save you all the effort of breaking out of the subconsciously ingrained adherence to the 6-issue arc, I have plumbed the depths of my arcane interests to find something that will, at least, hopefully, be enjoyable, if not worldview altering and perspective broadening for the Spoiler Alert podcast revolving crew to read over the course of a month for Book Club. Megaton Man, the original run of 10 issues from 1984 to 1990 by Don Simpson. Don't be fooled by the garbage put out by the older, broken-willed Don Simpson of post-1990, desperately milking his brilliant creation to ever-diminishing returns as every other idea he has fizzles and dies on the vine. No, stick with the lightning in a bottle that was Kitchen Sink's publication of Megaton Man, a parody/exploration of the hero and its archetypes set against the political structure of the Cold War. And funny. Or if that is too obscure, DR and Quinch by Alan Moore and Alan Davis. First appearing in 2000 AD in 1983, it follows the adventures of a couple of alien, criminal, juvenile delinquents. Despite it being by an Alan Moore enterprise, it eschews highbrow literary references and rape in deference to cruel comedy. How's that grab you? The Home Dad Abroad. So my response to that was, are you purposely trying to find books that are out of print? And then he responded again, I'm eclectic, and they're not out of print in my collection. Besides, if something is out of print, there are ways of getting readable copies. I'm assuming he did this sort of motion.
I would hope.
One of these. Yeah.
No,
like the cackle.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the email from Home Dad.
I was
In
going to
his
say
defense, the Alan. I was just going to say that the Alan Moore book, Dr. and Quinch, is that or Finch? I don't have a copy of it, and neither does anyone, reasonably sane. But I do have a copy of Back Issue Magazine that goes all into the history of it. So we could review that article.
Nice.
I thought in response, like I didn't. It's like a beautiful, subtle, eclectic troll in a way of like, here's two crazy, deep in the weeds kind of things that you guys can read. So I thought that it would be fun to respond to that with reviewing X-Force #1 by Rob Liefeld, or just anything with lots and lots of pouches in the X-Men. Maybe Chuck Austin's run. Just something that's a like literal opposite of literative or literature style comic books. I figured that was the way to go.
I'm assuming he'll get back to us again.
Hey, JD, I got an email.
Huh?
You have a letter?
I have a letter.
You have
lots and lots of letters?
God damn you!
Well, I've got one. I've got.
I thought we did it well that time. Actually, I wasn't trying to mess it up.
It was. I thought it was.
I mean, I sang it like Yul Brynner, but it wasn't.
We're Yul Brynners.
Yeah,
that's all we are.
Let's shave our heads.
I'm sorry, Len. What?
I miss you guys.
This is from Jason Lavachkin.
Jay.
Who offers some suggestions for the combined podcast. Here are some suggestions for a new podcast name that combines the great taste of spoiler alert and less filling of gutter talk. How about the Heroes Complex Weekly Roundup podcast? Basically, but reminds folks of JD's store. Or the Letters Page podcast, because you have letters, lots and lots of letters. The Sidekicks and Henchmen podcast, homage to JD's greeting each week. The Big Five podcast, homage to the Big Two, but includes everyone. The Heroes Complex Splash Page, a touch more inventive than the Weekly Roundup. The Off Panel podcast, anything can happen off panel.
That's good.
The Spoken Thought Bubble podcast, a little irreverent. The Cult Pop Pull List continues branding for Cult Pop. The Variant Crisis Event Crossover Omnibus podcast presented by Cult Pop and the Black Tribbles, lampooning the yearly events from the Big Two. Or the COVER podcast, aka the Crossover Omnibus Variant Event Retcon podcast. Enough said. Just my 2 cents. All the best, Jason, aka Build a Tribble.
That's cute.
Brian's probably going to pick the longest title with all the different variations. Just because he loves being able to remember it all and recite it really quickly.
Oh shit, the X-Men.
Yeah, like if it's at all like the X-Men round. Yeah, exactly. So it'll be like welcome to episode 3 of the 20 minutes later.
I forgot about that
podcast.
I think you're onto something there, Noel. The blah 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 podcast.
That's good. Let's make it like they purposely blacked out the word in the bubble.
You could do it in the font of how they do Joker's laughs behind them.
Great. No, I actually do. Well, real quick, I hope the last one would have periods after all of those when we inevitably did the crossover one. I thought Off Panel Podcast was a cool name for a podcast.
That is a pretty cool name. I like Off Panel.
Yeah. The one before it was cool too. What was that one? Having had a long conversation about my memory, I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, there was like 4 really good ones out of like the 20, like 4 that I really liked out of like the 20, but I can't remember them now because there were so many.
Yeah.
With the email.
Yeah. Looking at that email.
Are you looking at it now?
That email?
So, not being one to not participate, Christopher Goodnight fired off a quick email. So Len, last week, and to be honest, it was just to remind us about last week when he wrote us in and we read, but part of it was directed at Leonard, who hates being called Leonard. Sorry, at Len. Don't forget to ask Len about Storm in Black Panther. And my Atomic Robo suggestion for next week, the Shadow from Beyond time. I'd be glad to join you live to talk about it. Would you? Chris St. Saucy, good night. By the way, just backed my first Indiegogo in Sean Murphy's Plot Holes. Any of you guys get in on that? And, he sent us a picture.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Hey,
Nice.
hey, bud.
Let's see. How do I
Yeah.
make it
No,
nice
you
and
can see
big?
it.
Ooh,
There we go.
there he is.
Cool.
Oh man, his TV screen is probably having Inception right now.
That's what I was thinking. So Len, I guess the hubbub, the hullabaloo is that Storm is going to be in the Black Panther 2 film, which I have not heard, but to be fair, I don't pay attention to that stuff. So he wants to know what you think about it, I assume, as the black guy on the podcast?
Well, he has also
Well,
talked
you
about
love Storm.
talked
Yeah,
about
a lot.
too. Yeah. Like that.
We can't hear you, bud.
Sorry, I muted y'all because I was chewing. I apologize. I muted myself because I was chewing.
You can hear us, but not you. Sorry.
I have felt, I never liked the whole idea of Storm marrying Black Panther because I felt that was kind of like just shoehorned into the story. And my fear, and a big fear that we've talked about on Black Tribbles, was that now with Marvel having X-Men again, that what they were going to start doing was try to move the movie universe towards that storyline as a way of bringing in the mutants into the the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think that does not show proper deference to the character of Storm. And I think it is a little tone deaf, sticking on, because all of a sudden, like, why does she have to be in Black Panther? Why couldn't you introduce her in the Avengers? Why couldn't you introduce her in Captain Marvel or anything else? Or in Thor? She's been a Thor. You know what I'm saying? She's wielded Mjolnir. Like, if anything, I would have thought that it might have been interesting to introduce her there. So to introduce her in a Black Panther, seems a little lazy.
Yeah.
And again, I just don't think that it does the character any justice. But I've long given up on them doing any justice to Storm. It's a effing shame.
I think, like, I had kind of heard of this too, and like read a cursory rumor-filled article about it. This is like conjecture along the lines of cosmic book news bullshit. I really don't think that they're going to do it because, honestly, I trust Ryan Coogler more than anything to not do something that hackneyed of just like insert black X-Men or a black mutant into the one place where audiences would enjoy it. Like, that's stupid. I do not think that's going to happen.
I hear you on trusting Ryan Coogler will be possibly against it. However, as much autonomy as the success as Black Panther probably has bought Ryan Coogler, there still is a certain level where he has to agree to a certain set of marching orders. So if the marching order was Storm's got to be in Black Panther, I wouldn't like it. But if Ryan Coogler is directing it and helping with working on the story, then I'm going to trust that he's going to at least try and do it in a more interesting and more less ham-fisted way than it was done in the comics. I'm not going to like it, but I'm going to reserve just a judgment and trust him. You know what I mean? Because I do think he's at the end of the day, Marvel, Disney, they write the checks, and if he wants to do the movie, he's got to follow a certain rules or dictates.
Now, it seems to me that there would be actual reasons for her to be there. Like, they both are from Africa.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had mentioned last time, you remember, about like if it was the after credits scene. Oh, let me get some grapes.
Yeah.
Hey Sam. There like a cutscene, or not a cutscene, an after credit scene where it's like he noted, like, the whole story has happened, and because of their science, like, he or Shuri notices, like, yo, there's some weird weather shit happening in Africa, and then she's just in the X-Men movie. Like, that's if they were going to put it in there at all,
like an end credits sequence kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I can see that.
I don't, or would you say, Alan?
Like that wouldn't bother me.
Yeah,
Something like that wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
Randy says that wasn't Mjolnir that she had.
That's true. That was
Point.
what he created. Yeah. Right.
What was it if it wasn't Mjolnir? I never read that story. What was it?
I think it was created by Loki and like a bid to take over Asgard, and she would be the core of it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good call, Randy. Thanks, bud. So thank you, everyone who wrote us in. Feel free to email us at cultspopgo@gmail.com or blacktribbles@gmail.com, and either myself or Len will grab a hold of it, and we will read it. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the interactions, because without you, I'm so alone. Let's talk about some books. Dark Knight's
Not much longer.
That's not. Nope. Dark Knight's Death Metal #2.
I'll be there in a minute.
Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Diamond has this to say: "Get ready to scream. Wonder Woman roars across the horrifying dark multiverse landscape in the world's most demented monster truck, with Swamp Thing riding shotgun. The two arrive at the ghoulish cemetery base of Batman and his army of zombies. But can the former friends stand each other long enough to form a plan and take back the planet? Plus, what's Lobo doing in space? Don't miss the second chapter of the wildest ride in the DC universe from the epic team of writer Scott Snyder and artist Greg Capullo." I didn't see Lobo in this book. Did I miss it?
He was in one panel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you know what? This is happening more and more. Like the solicitations are like 2, 3, 4 months out. So
Yeah.
if a scene or an event in one issue gets pushed off to like the next issue, it's still in the solicitations for like issue 3.
So that
Yeah. Well, it happens all the time. Like it happened, I think, with Legion of Superheroes recently. They were like, in the solicitations, it was like, oh, the truth about the whatever twins, and you're like, that didn't happen, but it happened in the next issue.
Oh, I didn't notice that they were like pushing from one to the next. By the time that happens, I forget that we mentioned the solicitation.
While we're having this conversation, I need someone to find this image of Lobo in space because I don't see it. I've just got through the entire book.
I think it's literally like his back. I think even.
Yeah. Yeah, because he showed up at the end of issue 1.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of given kind of lip service in the background. I'm telling you, I think it's just a solicitation mark from a previous version of the story where maybe it got maybe that plot beat got pushed to issue 4 or 3 or something.
So what did you guys think of this book, Len?
Okay.
Here we go. Strap in.
Okay, I just don't care. I just don't care about any of this stuff, man. It just reads as so. I mean, I know purposefully because of the world that is set in and everything like that. It's supposed to read as just bonkers. Like this is supposed to be read basically like DC a la the Mad Max universe. Right? And like Wonder Woman is supposed to be so cool and almost like Charlize Theron from Fury Road, and I mean she was cool, and you got the Flash in there, and I love her hair. Wally, and
I love that ombre. That's called an ombre. My wife's a hairstylist.
My wife.
Yeah, and you got the Swamp Thing. He's all skinny and stuff, and they run into the Justice Society, and
he's wearing like Toys R Us sunglasses or something. Like what?
Like the bat sunglasses, like those bat 3D visors on his face.
Those were introduced in the first issue.
Okay, I'm fine, but I just don't care, man. I mean, the coolest bit of it is that Bat Atom gets crushed by the wheel of a car in the beginning of on the first page. That was kind of cool.
The Batum, yeah,
the Batum. But then by the end, when we get a reprise of the composite Superman Batman mech robot again, I'm like, I just don't give a goddamn about this book. And I mean, I think I like Greg Capullo's art, but for the most part, I think he's kind of sleepwalking through this one. It just is stupid. I don't care. I mean, the story is just by the numbers, gather the team up together to fight the big bad, and now they brought back the Batman who laughs, who was in a like a golem of Dr. Manhattan, who then turns into the Darkest Night, and it's just stupid. Oh my God!
I'm not gonna disagree with you. It's pretty stupid. And there were times in here where even I was like, "Ugh, all right." So now, first of all, I was really stoked about what happened in the first issue, where Wonder Woman, unbeknownst to her captors, is carving apart the invisible jet to make herself an invisible chainsaw, which has the magic lasso as the pull lever. I thought that was amazing, and then she chainsaws the Batman who laughs, and I went, "Oh, thank God! Oh, thank God, he's dead." I was so excited that they murdered that character that they have been forcing down our throats for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
And now, of course, it's like, oh no, he's now got Dr. Manhattan powers somehow,
Yeah.
and and now he's changed because he doesn't like the color blue. He changes into the Blackest Night.
Yeah, all of a sudden he's shade.
Sorry, the Darkest Night.
The Darkest Night, which is it's just a Green Lantern thing, really.
Yeah. I think it was great. I actually,
Oh no, it's not. Yeah.
when I first read this, so like after issue 1, you and I, JD, the first thing you mentioned to me was like, "Thank God they killed the Batman who laughs."
Yeah.
Such a good like heel turn, or like such a good turn at the end of the first issue, and you think he's the big bad. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool, but I wouldn't be surprised if blah, blah, blah. Immediately, not only do they bring him back, but they bring him back in what a lot of other comic fans would think is the most egregious and blasphemous way possible, by sticking his brain inside of like the carcass of a Dr. Manhattan style Bruce Wayne.
Hey, also, Noel, do you know did they show us in the first one how they get a Dr. Manhattan?
I don't think so. It's just a alternate version of Batman that went through that process, or of Bruce Wayne.
That was
process.
Dr. Bat Hatton. That's right.
Yeah, it's not John Osterman.
Right. It's they give him a name. It's the Dr. Bat Manhattan, or
something like that.
Oh, the Bat Manhattan or something like that.
Batman.
Something ridiculous like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, especially this week when we're having conversations about Watchmen being used over and over again as like either a power up or a new series and blah blah blah, and people freaking out. This week with that in it, I was just like, oof. There you go.
I found him.
I thought it was a real ballsy move. It's kind of like a
ballsy.
Yeah, ballsy in so much as like, screw you and your expectations. This is stupid, and I love it. Of the writers, right?
I found myself like it. So I was, as you guys know, right there with you about the Batman who laughs and my interest level in his antics, shenanigans. But I found myself when he becomes the Darkest Night, I was like, that's a little better.
I dug it. I dug it. Yeah.
Like, I'm a little more interested in, rather than Batman who is the Joker, is like a Batman who went crazy and is nigh omnipotent now. I don't need to see him in any more stories after this.
Oh, you're gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me.
Well, I assume going up against Wally, right? Like, they are the counters to each other.
I think the way that this is going to like wash out, or they're alluding to, is that the Batman who laughs. Sorry, from now on, I will note him as the Darkest Night.
That's also a better name.
It is a better name. The Darkest Night seems to be kind of working up the armament to take on Perpetua himself.
No, she said it would be a good idea, Noel. She's like, you can't do it. Batman who laughs.
Yeah, he's Batman. He always wins. But I like, we haven't talked about. I genuinely love no matter how stupid this gets. I genuinely love the conceit of it. The fact that the DC universe was built off of chaos energy, which she feeds on. So in order to rebuild it the way it was, having to go into each crisis to take a little bit of the chaos energy to rebuild the DC multiverse. That's so effing huge and weird and stupid. I kind of love it.
So is this if what I'm getting from it is basically the plot to Endgame? Is that what we're doing?
I guess so. In a way that everything matters, you have to go in and get a piece of at each one of these different realities that have.
Yeah. So I'm excited to kind of revisit the other crises. If we're doing some sort of time travel multiverse hopping thing.
Yeah.
I'm a little interested in that. It's kind of up my alley. I loved Endgame and how we got to go revisit past scenes from a different lens. I always enjoy that.
Yeah, if that's the way that they go with this, I think that would be really cool. Like, imagine these 3 versions of the Trinity going to 0 Hour and having to deal with Parallax.
My favorite part
would be cool.
Is this Batman. So it's not just the Batman Superman robot that we saw in Batman Superman from Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness. This is a Batman Superman Wonder Woman outfit that they gave lipstick to.
The lips are the because that's the only place you could do Wonder Woman on the face, right? Oh,
Yeah.
I guess you could do the gal.
Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know.
Maybe she's made with it.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, Len's right. This is stupid, but that does not mean I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah, you know what? One of the problems I had with Justice League before this, and pieces of Dark Knight before, or Dark Knight Metal before, was that it was very self-serious and convoluted. This doesn't feel like that at all, so I'm just buying into it a lot more. Like, they're having fun as opposed to the Justice League series that was just so intense and went nowhere. This actually feels like crazy, silly, throwing off fireworks, which I think is a lot more digestible for me.
If it goes this way, I'm interested too in the idea that they go back to each crisis. They keep saying everything matters. I wonder if they will be like, this is what happens to you when they meet the Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman from 0 Hour. Not like you are an alternate. You know what I mean? Like, they're not in an alternate reality or a different version. The idea is that, just like in Doomsday Clock, where it's the same Superman since the Golden Age, and he just keeps changing. I don't know. I think that would be cool.
I think the fact that 3 out of 4 of us are talking about how fun the possibilities might be means that this was a relatively successful issue.
I'm also interested in the continuity stuff, and that's what, you know what I mean? Like, I like what they're doing there, and that's part of why I'm interested in it.
But it was stupid. It's super stupid.
And I can't wait until we reach the end of this.
I'm going to be upset.
And none of your predictions play out.
Yeah.
And you're all sitting here like, this was such a waste of time. This was so, you know what? We said it was stupid in the second issue. We should have just stood by that.
Burn me 5 times. I'm going to read what you read next. What you write next. Like, it has happened almost every single one of these series. Yeah. However, over time, I've, usually will, with hindsight, just kind of enjoy them a little bit. Like, after reading these first 2 issues, I almost maybe 5% more enjoy most of the Justice League run now. Because it's got this I know it's got this weird hindsight context where okay, all the convoluted bullshit they were doing over there was relatively helping this out here, so it's not that awful. And if by the end of it made me like all that had no conclusion, then I mean that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Randy says even with the added Wonder Woman stuff.
Which stuff?
I don't know. That's what I'm wondering. Besides the ombre, what is he talking about?
Oh, like the.
Was it?
I
don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about either. So anyway, I mean, this was dumb as hell, but that's sort of part of the charm for me. It really is having fun, and it's not really taking itself too seriously. A lot of decisions seem to be made on, can I make a pun out of this name? So all right, he's just having, you know what he's doing. He's rolling a big old spliff, and he's just puffing away and just typing it up. Let's move on to Empire #1, story by Al Ewing and Dan Slott, script by Al Ewing, art by Valerio Schiti. The Kree and the Skrulls have united under a new emperor, and their war fleet is on a collision course for our world. On the moon, the Avengers are ready to strike with the full power of Earth's mightiest heroes. Approaching from outer space, the Fantastic Four are seeking a diplomatic solution. If the two teams can't work together to save the day, things can only get worse. So we've had 4 or 5 lead-ups to this issue 1. And
issue 1, is this the actual issue 1 of Empire, or is this another prelude?
It's called Empire 1.
No, I know.
Yeah. So those have all been great. So great, in fact, that I felt a little underwhelmed by this first issue. What did you guys think, Brian?
To be honest, I don't disagree with that. We got a lot of the story already. Like the all the lead ups, right? Yeah. But I did enjoy it, and I liked how it played out. I liked that. Ultimately, it turns out the Kotati are the bad guys, and they want to kill.
Surprise!
The meat entities. Although I just learned that up until the 1300s, the word meat could be used to describe any nourishment, and so like carrots and whatever would have been called meat back then. Anyway, but the Kotati don't care. They just want to kill. They just want to. Our current definition of meat entities, and I like that.
I love you.
I love you so much.
Oh God,
we don't even need to distract you. You just do it yourself.
Although it makes me wonder about someone like the chefs who are cooking the thing. Guys, someone pass me the meat. I need more meat in here. No, not this meat.
The other meat. The pulpy meat with the stem.
The meat with seeds.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it changed, you guys. They evolved.
Language.
So anyway, I thought it was good. I originally in the preludes, I kind of thought that it was going to be a more hero fighting hero kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that it's not.
Yes.
I like that we're
Oh.
I did not want that again.
Yeah, they keep, even at the top of this first issue, it says Avengers, Fantastic Four, Empire. So this entire time, it's either the Avengers or the Fantastic Four. And I thought there was going to be some sort of like AVX or AVI sort of thing where like, you want to help this team, but I want to help this other team. And we're both wrong.
It's still early. They might fight. It's comic.
It's possible. But the Avengers seem to have realized, like in the prelude, it was like they were on the side of the Kotati, possibly through chemical manipulation. And they seem to have realized fully that, like, oh, this is a bad idea.
But again, it's comics. They're like, it's a full-on brawl when they argue about the check who's going to pay for dinner. Like, it's bound to happen, right?
Yeah, it is. But what I do, to JD's point, I like that in this issue, when they initially, especially because the way that it left off in the prelude, the Avengers Prelude, it almost looked like the Fantastic Four were leading the Kree to the Kotati. You know what I'm saying? So now you actually get the context behind that, and you see that their relationship, despite them being with the Kree to fight the Avengers being with the Kotati, you see that there is still a conversation that happens between these two entities, Reed and Tony, because of who they are.
Smart person thing, you mean?
Exactly. Like they know each other. I know why the Kree are here. Reed, you tell me why you're there. What's going on? Then they have a conversation, and it actually is a whole conversation before the craziness happened. And that's because the two of them are there. So actually that played out against type for most books, and I actually appreciated that. Did you kind of see the Kotati being when the worm was going to turn with them? Yeah, you kind of seen it, because that was the Messiah dude. He was the weirdest looking dude in the world. Like you just knew, like, oh yeah, this is the other side of this, bruh.
And also, he was being way too sweet,
like.
and Tony was way too like almost.
Didn't he remind you guys a little bit of like the new the Hox Pox Professor X?
Oh, I could do that.
I see what you mean.
I didn't think of it.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Like it really culty, really creepy culty.
Well, yes, definitely very culty. Yeah.
Also, I have a new kink.
What is it?
That is the only slightly powered down She-Hulk.
Ah, yes. All right.
Yeah, I mean, she's got. What is she going to be, like an agent of Katati now? Because they did a little like a mind strategy with her.
Yeah, she might be on their side.
I want to mention this version of Reed Richards, who looks like he's missed all his child support payments.
I saw that too. I saw that.
I did a thunder round, I think, in the middle of the week.
Nasty 50-year-old drunk.
Yeah, I did a thunder round on this, I think, in the middle of the week, and that was one of the things I mentioned. On the cover, Reed Richards.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you open the book, Valerio Schiti is drawing the character, and it's so strange. It's so weird. Like I can't even pinpoint what's wrong with him, but it's strange.
But to be fair, that I did bump on that. And well, I guess I didn't notice that panel because there were other panels with Reed where I thought he didn't look that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I certainly did bump on that one. Like this one here, I don't know if you can see it. Like that one.
Oh yeah, when it's super close up, sure, he looks like Reed Richards. But anytime that he's like in a mid shot, he looks drunk.
Yeah.
His hair is longer too than they would normally. It's a little like shaggier than he would normally have. And on the cover, it's not. It's his classic like tight.
His Hulkling is a force to be reckoned with. This panel was so awesome.
Yeah. I was really happy that Hulkling did not turn out to be leading the bad guy army. You know, for whatever reason they would. I like that flip that they are on the side of good. That's cool.
Yeah. The Ghost Quinjet. Ghost Rider takes over the Quinjet, and it turns into the Ghost Quinjet.
This is a really cool, like, even though it was telegraphed for 1,000 miles, this was a really cool kind of turn just in general, because when they first introduced Hulkling kind of leading the Alliance army as their emperor, the very first thing he says was, "Let's go take out Earth." Yeah. But it's really the invaded Katati now that we know that. Like, so that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So Randy had come in and we chatted in the shop for a little bit. Also, hi, Joel, who says, "I'm glad I'm not the only one put off by Reed's look."
Yeah.
Randy and I had a conversation, and Randy took, what's the word I'm looking for? He took issue with the sword stopping Mjolnir. He just didn't buy it. The fact that Thor, as he is now in the Donny Cates series, is Odin, right? He's the All-Father.
Right.
So he's even stronger than Thor usually is. And he's able, Hulkling is able to stop Mjolnir with just a little dink, his sword. But of course, I believe this is all sort of moving us towards the Hickman X-Men event called the 10 of Swords, because we keep seeing these swords pop up all over Marvel Universe.
I got to look this up. That sword is actually predates that. This is like this is a pre-existing sword, kind of like a sword in the stone kind of thing when it comes to the Kree and the Skrulls. Like it happened in Teddy wielded it, the first person to wield it for whatever time, and it told him his destiny was to combine the races. Like this sword has actual Avengers history, and I don't remember what it is. So it's not just a random sword at all.
What are you showing us, Brian?
It is a cool looking sword for one thing. It's also, it's got like this power electrical kind of signature thing. So it's not just a regular sword. Like
that's the thing that Randy did not take into account is how cool the sword looks.
All right, it's called the Star Sword. It's called Excelsior the Star Sword.
Right.
It's a mystical sword created by the merging two ancestral swords of the Kree and the Skrulls. It's storied to be wielded by the true leader of, or the being that will unite the races.
There you go.
It's a sword, not a new thing. Yeah.
I was going to ask Glenn what he thought, but
He's out.
Well,
I think we know.
Yeah, as evidenced, he doesn't get it. No, I even though this was like a weak first issue, there was a couple of really, really good moments, and of course, like I want to know how this ends. So I'm digging it.
Len, anything?
I liked it for the most part. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, here's what I appreciated about this mostly is that it's happening now. It's happening in our universe. It's not, we're not dipping off into, dark metal void. We're not dipping off into the Venom sphere. We're not dipping off wherever the fuck half of these books seem to be taking place anymore. This is happening right here with real consequences in our time.
I cannot wait until the end is revealed, or they have to go back in time to reverse. I can't wait. I can't wait until this is erased within its own story by like timey-wimey shit. Just so we can refer to this. That's all. That's all.
Hey, Len.
Yes.
It's time.
What
is it?
It's time. Brian, what's the time for?
Thunder Round.
That's right. Cacao. Len, you're up first. You're going to be talking about Spider-Woman #2 by Carla Pacheco and Pere Perez. And you're going to do a 60-second review. Are you ready?
Certainly. Spider-Woman #2. Yes, let's go. All right, so Spider-Woman is Jessica Drew, who has a Spider-Man-ish costume now, and she's kind of like a hero for hire of a little bit. And she gets messed up and find out she goes out and saves some girl and find out she's sick. She realizes that somebody maybe slipped her a Mickey of a sort to try to steal her powers. And she wants to go find out how this happened, and hilarity and violence ensues. I do not like Jessica Drew's costume, but I do like Jessica Drew, and I love the book. I was digging it for the most part. The art is fantastic. It's more realistic. It's happening now on Earth, and that I loved. So I think Spider-Woman, and it was a long time for Spider-Woman #2 to come out, so I'm mad at that. But pick it up. I think you'll enjoy it. Good read.
I have a question about. Oh, if I may, take some of your thunder round. End of round.
End of rounds.
Where does Rhino get the rash? He can't get out of that costume, right?
All he wanted was some ointment. This is the best part of that issue, by the way.
That was fun. It's a dumb fun issue. I enjoyed it. I was like, all right, this is kind of quirky. It's cool.
Nice. Brian.
Yes.
You're up next. You're going to be talking about Avengers #34 by Jason Aaron and Javier Garrón.
Cool.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Aw, snap.
All right. I liked it. This is a fun issue. We've got Moon Knight he had been gathering a bunch of the some version of some group of powers, but not pre-existing, Iron Fist and whatever. But now he's got them, and it really explodes. They go through Khonshu, the moon god of Egypt, takes over, then has a really cool, aesthetically cool look for his dystopian world that he forces everyone to participate in. And it turns out the Moon Knight is not so bad. That was pretty sweet too, because I like Moon Knight, and it was nice that he he did all these bad things, but he had a good purpose. Black Panther is badass, breaks out of a bunch of chains and refuses to. Oh, here's a great line. They're like, how much of your blood must we take before you give in, or something like that, or before we have your power? And he says, all of it. It was cool.
Round.
All right, the round is over. This scene is also cool, and there's only 3 of us here, and one of us just shit our pants.
This is still a great book.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm totally loving Avengers more than I was Justice League.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, currently too. Let's just go with currently more than I enjoy Justice League.
No.
JD.
You're up for Fantastic Four #21, written by Dan Slott with art by Paco Medina. Are you ready for your 60-second review?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, shit.
This was fine.
Oh.
End
of round.
This was fine. The first third of the this is one of those fill-in issue or tie-in issues that kind of have to do with like one little scene in the main book, but then they expand it. So the kids, Valerie and Franklin, are asked to take the two really great Kree and Skrull kids back home to Earth for protection while they deal with the Katati. And this is what happens to them on Earth. Apparently, there's some sleeper agents of the Katati on Earth that are now made aware and about to go attack the Fantastic Four. And they incite the help of previous Fantastic Four members, which is cute. Paco Medina's art is fantastic. It's really, really awesome. I love the way that he portrays Spider-Man and Wolverine, especially there's a panel where, before that, there's a panel where Spider-Man is carrying Wolverine in the classic pose, which is a really, really funny scene.
End of round.
But it's just fine.
Oh.
I don't really dig Dan Slott's writing that much. He's so cutesy. And even when it's just funny, he's really cutesy, and it just kind of undercuts the wit, you know?
I'm a sucker for that alternate, the Ghost Rider, Hulk, Spider-Man.
Me too.
Before it,
How are you going to realize that?
And an interesting way to have, like, I wanted your guys' thoughts. Like, what do you, to do a tie-in, which I think we're all, tired of in some ways, but to not have it be the characters, it's the Fantastic Four Empire tie-in, but you don't have to see, like, here's the events you saw in Empire from the Fantastic Four's perspective,
like, honestly, and during Maximum or Carnage, Absolute Carnage, the Venom book there were great little side stories within the book, within the main book that felt like, this could have easily kind of slipped in. And I enjoyed those because they were like, they still followed the plot thread of the series before, but kind of really directly had to do with the event, which this seems to be doing as well. It's just a different, it's just a different battlefield of the war.
Sure.
All of the forces on Earth, which are these weird, like, monks, these ninja
monks. I guess they're with the Kotati. And then the other,
I just have a problem with Dan Slott's writing. It doesn't appeal to me all that much all the time.
See, I grew up on. Well, I didn't grow up. I was an adult when Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis and Kevin Maguire were doing their whole Justice League thing, and which you think of Justice League, it's the Justice League. Yet this was decidedly, humor first, action second. It was second tier leaguers, and you bought the book for the humor, but there was still good action, still good character beats that happened in it. Dan Slott writing of the Fantastic Four, who are characters who have always been portrayed as very cosmic and like they're central and integral to what's happening in the Marvel universe. Let's face it, they're not so much anymore, just because of the way things go in the industry. So he's taking a different slant on them, being a little bit more humorous, trying to find some lane where they can matter in this universe. And for the most part, I appreciate it. What I haven't appreciated, the biggest thing that I haven't appreciated is that they haven't had a steady artist, which means that it hasn't had a consistent look, which means that no matter how cutesy or interesting some of the stories may be, because the art varies, you're only invested in it but so much based on what the images are presenting to you. And the way they've been collecting them, like the trade paperbacks have been like no bigger. They're like 40 pages. I mean, like, come on, dog.
You can get a paper cut with the just the side of the trade,
with the spine of it, exactly. So that's been disappointing to me. But for the most part, I appreciate what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And I rock with it, but I'm like with you, Noel. I love this artwork in this issue.
Oh yeah.
It's just that I know that the next issue is going to be somebody totally different, and they're going to have a totally different look, and it's going to be hard to follow because of
Yeah,
that.
I've kind of been struggling with Dan Slott for a little while now. Like even the second half of his Spider-Man run, I just completely fell off of too because he has these large ideas that and he just overcomplicates them instead of pulls them off. And then when they are like when they come in for a landing, it's just so back bending convoluted that you're like, oh, all right. Like the Spider-Verse, the second version of the Spider-Verse stuff was just so overly complicated. And it was like when it finally all get wrapped up, it was just like, we're done. Okay. Like it seems like he loves building these tapestries of conflict, but isn't super interested with like really sticking the landing.
To be fair, the second Spider-Verse event was written by someone else.
Geddon? Oh yeah, you're right. Christopher Page, you're right.
It was like Dan Slott got credit because like he set up everything. So Len, Paco Medina is going at least through Fantastic Four number 25, 26.
So this arc?
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be good.
That's cool.
Yeah, I just checked in on it for you. Giant Size X-Men Magneto by John Hickman and Ramon Perez. Diamond has this to say: Jonathan Hickman continues his one-shots, showcasing some of Marvel's best artists. This time, they bring a tale of Krakoan ambassador and master of magnetism, Magneto. Krakoa may be only for mutants, but mutants still need to deal with the human world around them. Magneto has a plan for that. So this was fine, right? It was okay.
I have a point. So, all right. So Magneto is meeting with Emma Frost, right?
Yes.
And she's like, pour me some wine. So he levitates the glass wine metal wine bottles that they use on Krakoa. So I was like, now wait a second. I've heard of leaded glass and whatever, and could they? So it turns out, I looked it up. Glass can be magnetically, like affected
manipulated.
Right, it's possible. So, and I'm like, well, he's Magneto. He's very good at it and powerful, so he could do it. And then, like 2 pages later, he has a bundle of wood that he is lifting into the fire. Like, how is he doing that?
Huh?
Right. Like, where's the metal in that?
Well, in his defense, isn't the wood like it's kind of like in a bubble type of thing? So
what's the bubble made out of? What's he doing there?
In a bubble?
His power, but I guess you know what? Honestly, they don't show his power anywhere else, so maybe that is a.
This is off topic? How does Magneto fly? He manipulates magnetic waves.
Yeah.
Doesn't he manipulate the metal in his body?
I'm not sure he can do that. I'm not sure if that's how they say that he flies, or if
iron in his blood.
Yeah,
something like that.
Something, yeah.
I just presumed he could, with the magnetic fields or force, he can kind of, limited telekinesis.
Tactile telekinesis.
I touch things, and
then they ask later. Namor's like, can you open it? He's like, it's a brass tin iron composite. Yes, and I was like, does it really matter? What?
Hey, let's talk about what didn't happen in this issue, like much. Like he goes and buys an island, with a favor to Emma. He buys an island with a favor to Namor and gets this key that we don't know about. Yeah, this felt like a cutscene in a video game that I paid $5 for.
I thought also the introduction of Namor was a little disappointing. He's on the island, and I was like, who would own an island? Maybe Namor. And then it shows in like page 3, you get that which characters are in this book kind of thing. And Namor is one of the characters. And I was like, well, I guess that's who it is then.
Yeah.
And so I would have rather.
As there are only 3 characters in the story. Yeah.
Right.
Like I said, this was fine. For an issue that looks like this, I was very excited to read this issue, and then I was like, "Oh, all right, that happens."
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm very concerned. No, as far as I'm concerned, there's been 3 giant size X-Men issues now. It was the Jean Grey and
Storm.
Emma Frost.
Emma Frost. Yeah, Jean Grey and Emma Frost.
Nightcrawler,
and this. One of them was really good. The other 2 have been kind of
me
fine or inconsequential. Like I really liked the Jean Grey Emma Frost one because it felt different. I know that Len doesn't like what they did with Storm in the issue, when they've not at all brought that up in any other book since.
No place yet. Nope. Just get a couple of white women running around a black woman's head.
But as a pastiche of an old issue, as like an exercise in storytelling, that was something different and something really cool. Whereas these other 2 have just been like weird little side stories that are just feel like junk food. And I almost like I don't need to read these to know the whole story. Like they're just going to be little side quests that don't really matter, but kind of fill in, I guess. Like, what's the island for? Cool. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, it's a setup for something coming. Yeah,
but
I enjoyed this sort of laconic nature of the story, where it's just like he meets with Namor, they talk a little, they go do a little thing, and then they part with a handshake, or there's a handshake in there somewhere. And that does not take away at all from what you guys are saying. Like it is a largely inconsequential story. I kind of enjoyed that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Of it. It's just like Magneto alone on an island kind of thing. It's not making it into my favorites list, but I had a good time reading it.
good.
yeah, Magneto kind of felt he felt a little like he didn't feel like he had been in the other issues of X-Men and whatnot. Very filled with gravitas and no, give no inch. And this is just him kind of like, oh, absolutely. Yes. Thank you very much. Like being very, very, very cordial to the point of like, what's going on? Like, it just didn't even feel like the new Magneto.
Oh,
to me.
Action Figure Expert says, haven't you ever heard of transparent aluminum?
Nope. No. Truly. Transparent aluminum is very cool. And you guys, it is a aluminum. It's made out of like aluminum powder, and it is clear like glass. It's really cool. They mention it in a Star Trek movie from the 80s, I guess. And then now there is a real thing that is called transparent aluminum.
That's neat.
But
also his follow-up is even better. Magneto flies by levitating himself because he's wearing like a metal belt or a helmet or the metal in his shoes or something. Of course he would have metal elements in his costume. That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I like that.
He just like rode the magnetic.
And so it's like
he can protect magnetism out of his hands, so he, like kind of like an Iron Man deal, repulsor ray flight.
You know what I think it is? My big brother, he used to grab me by the head and just lift me by my head when I was a smaller boy. So I imagine that's what he does with his helmet. His helmet just clamps around his neck.
Yeah, you're joking.
Himself by his own head.
You're joking, but as soon as he said with the shoes and the belt, I'm thinking like weight dispersal. That's awful. Like, how would you control like anything smooth moving back and forward if all you're doing is like from the fucking hip or like your left foot? I don't get that. Ugh. Comics are hurting me. They're breaking my heart over and over again.
Venom number 26 by Donny
Oh,
Cates.
wait a minute.
What about
just one little small comment about this story. I felt it was very inconsequential, just like I agree with everything that y'all said. That being said, I still enjoyed it because it is a gorgeous looking comic.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think so?
Perez can. I loved it. I enjoyed this. No, not a lot happened, so he's not asked to show a whole lot of bells and whistles. But I thought his character design and the faces that he drew, I thought they were okay. He draws a weird Namor. I mean, but at least he's trying something different from Namor. He's giving him a different face.
He was a weird looking guy.
Yeah, I mean, I liked his art. I loved his Emma Frost. I liked it.
That's cool. I was keeping my mouth shut because I didn't want to be mean. But one of the things that the Diamond thing says, John Hickman continues his one-shot showcasing some of Marvel's best artists, and I went, really? That's what this is?
I actually edited that because it said showcases Marvel's greatest artists. now Ben Oliver and Hickman are blah 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 blah. So
Wow.
originally solicited, this was not Ramon Perez. It was Ben Oliver.
Oh, yeah. I was very, I won't say put off, but I found the artwork to be subpar for a Marvel book.
Are you
But I'm glad
serious?
you liked it.
Yeah.
Are you serious? You think this is subpar? I think this is just as good as most of the books that we've read so far.
Cool.
Honestly, I think that don't get me wrong. Like I said, he's not asked to like show a lot of action and movement and anything like that. Okay, I mean, you point that out, and I'll point out this page, and I've got bad lighting, so I'm sorry, ladies and
Oh
gentlemen.
yeah, the
dinner is
establishing
beautiful.
shot of the
dinner-
ballroom or the
Yeah.
banquet room.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
I think he does some really good stuff. I think this is beautiful art, man.
I'm
I
glad.
agree.
And that
like
shot, that design
Yeah.
right
That's
there,
awesome.
the Sentinel building. I mean, come on, man.
And you know that's the Sentinel that destroyed Genosha too. She wants that on her
Exactly.
mantle. I love that idea. Yeah.
I do like this panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, JD, I disagree, my friend.
Cool.
with your
Respectfully,
assessment of this.
you're stupid.
Yeah. Well, you're not wrong.
What is it? Saturday Night Live. Jane, you ignorant slut.
Yeah, look, you don't like that?
No, no, I don't either. Yeah.
Oh, I do.
I like the design. I don't like his faces that much.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yes. You know what? It feels. Who's that other guy who does really good backgrounds and metal work?
Salvador LaRocca.
Yeah, sure. Oh, he's not. I don't think this is as bad as Salvador.
Oh no, I'm talking about like if it's mech, if it's design, it's beautiful. But as soon as it's faces, it's Sawyer from Lost. It's
Oh my
like
God, it's true.
Greg Land looking faces with like fake skin.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I really disagree with y'all. I think it's, for the most part, his
For
face
Salvador
is
LaRocca.
no, Salvador LaRocca is trashed. But, I'm liking this. I'm liking this Ramon Perez, man.
Cool.
I'm enjoying
No,
it.
I usually love Ramon Perez. It's just this one. I don't know. Did you say the original artist was supposed to be Ben
Yeah.
Oliver?
I was gonna say, can we
Real
be
quick.
serious? He probably did this really fast. If the original solicitation 3 months ago was Ben Oliver,
Yeah, I
means
wonder-
it turned out a double-sized issue
Yeah.
in less than 60 days.
No, normally I like Perez quite a bit. Yeah, this was not his strongest work, I don't think. Venom number 26 by Donny Cates and Iban Coelho. If you thought Venom Island was insane comic book action of the highest order, then shut your yapper and face front, true believer, because we're about to outdo ourselves. For months, the maker has been fascinated with symbiotes. In this issue, we find out why and what he intends to do with any he can get his hands on. I thought this was a bucket of fun. I really enjoyed this. I didn't know what to expect when I saw the cover of the book. I didn't know who this was.
Neither do we as readers.
So I thought, and so what is this? Venom Beyond starts here. I was wondering if this was a character that I missed from previously, but I think this is his first appearance. There's a couple of fun scenes in here, which I like. Venom is intimidating. Also, the artwork. God damn it. See that, Len? This is my jam. This artwork is my jam. I like this stuff. But basically, he's intimidating someone he needs information from, and he says, "You can lie to us, or you can live, but you cannot do both." Which I thought, well, that's a badass line. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny that even when he's just hanging out with his child, his Venom still has a giant slobbering tongue and horrible monster teeth.
Mm-hmm. Well, his kid is not afraid of it because his
Yeah.
kid sees visions of like Noel and actually does have like symbiote power in his blood and shit.
Mhm.
I did. Anybody read the arc before this?
Was that Venom Island?
Venom Island. Yeah.
Yeah.
You read some of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's got no hands now, and so it's full symbiote necessity, kind of like how Flash Thompson once, which was just pretty cool. Yeah, that character his name is Virus, or its name is Virus. It's a hodgepodge of like Iron Man armor, a weird paint job stitched together, and a Goblin glider. I have no idea like this came out of nowhere in this book. This character has not been like seeded. No idea who it is. It could be literally anything and anybody. And they all go into a weird time bubble. No, a gate. They go through a gate.
So it does not take place on this Earth.
Maybe? Well, I mean, so the Maker, which is Evil Reed Richards from the Ultimate Universe, has been using research from all kinds of other places, and he's been a big part of this book. He's been trying to get back to his original universe, the Ultimate Universe, which is still happening. And he does, but in doing that, everyone that's in the room gets sucked in through this thing into either the future or another space or anything. But it looks like all of them go through, and Venom and his son are in this beyond timeline. So it's a futuristic timeline with a different type of Venom that looks like it has the Noel logo. So this is literally going to be like a far-flung kind of arc.
Where do you see the Noel logo? Is that what this is?
All in red everywhere? Yeah.
That's the Noel logo?
Yeah. It's like, I mean, in a lot of the solicitations and like on the art on his chest is like a much more angular version of the Venom.
Oh, I see it now. Yeah. It's almost like the spider. I see it.
Yeah.
But without the single arms.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize what that was. It looked a little Magneto-y to me.
It does have like an M-ish to it. Yeah. But yeah, that looks like the Null logo. So they're like the Venom Beyond of the title. It seems to be kind of a play on Batman Beyond, like a future version of that's not original, which I think is really fun.
I always think it's funny that like this is a Venom book, and of course through happenstance they go into a future where a Venom villain has taken over. Now, very rarely do you see like a character go into a future in their own book and like it's some random villain has taken over.
This is
like, oh no, it's the Pace Pot Pete future.
There's one of them out there.
Yeah. So Len, what did you think?
Hated it.
You say I hated it?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. My Noel puppet said that.
I said I hated it.
Yeah, I hated this. This was it's not so much that I hated it, because just like you, JD, the art is good. You can't knock the art. It's fun. It's inventive. It's having a lot of fun. It's very intimidating. That scene that you pointed out is a great scene, great line, great way to set it up storytelling wise with the artwork. I enjoyed it. To echo my fellow Tribble Randy, I just don't give a fuck about Venom, and I just reading this give less of a fuck about him and his kid, and now it's Venom Beyond, and we've left Earth, and now he's got to go have some time alternate universe slapdash bullshit.
Bring it on. Yeah.
And that's cool. That's cool. I mean, I don't care. It's not for me, but it looked like it's competently done. So enjoy yourselves.
I mean, we're just like, this is just banging the drum for December when the big Venom event happens. The Null event.
Oh yeah, is that coming in December? You said?
Yeah, it's the King in Black.
Oh, okay.
God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is just all precursor for another universe event, a la Absolute Carnage, but bigger.
Where it's Noel versus Pace Pot Pete.
Well, I mean, I don't want like if you read the rumors online, Noel is Pace Pot Pete or Pace Pot Pete. It's a whole thing.
That's not symbiote. It's paste.
It's like Pace Pot Pete is a sleeper agent for Null. He's been on the universe for thousands of years. It's a whole thing, but it's great. It's gonna be me.
Let's move. We're running out of time. Savage Dragon number 250 by Eric Larson. Eric Larson's Savage Dragon hits issue 250 for 28 years. Eric Larson has chronicled the lives and times of the dragon and his extended family in one of comics' only series set in real time. This monumental, oversized milestone issue is a sweeping culmination that sets the stage for the next phase of comics' most uncompromising series, with its most shocking story yet. Forces have conspired against Malcolm Dragon and his family, but is this a turning point or the end? Find out as Savage Dragon becomes the second original Image title to reach its 250th issue and begins the countdown to number 300.
In the year 2050?
Yeah. I will say that as someone who absolutely loved the Savage Dragon when it first released, and I read it for at least the first 75 issues, I think, and I was looking forward to it every month. I'm very proud that Eric Larson was able to do this, and he continues to do it basically on his own, except for in this, where there's like little stories by other creators. And there's a strange thing happening in this book where it's very sexual. It's a very sexual book. And I battle with myself on how I feel about it, because on one thing, sex positivity, right? It's great. There's no problem with, having sexual relations and depicting them in comic books. But it's also very gratuitous. But it's also having a lot of fun with it. So I'm still trying to figure out how I feel, because the book was not always this way. It's hard to show you any images from the book.
You can't.
Yeah, you can't. So this is the first Savage Dragon anything I've ever read.
Oh wow!
So great.
And yeah, okay. So I'm very familiar. I'm familiar with the character, how he looks, right? Like, Image equals Savage Dragon and Spawn. So I'm familiar with the character in that sense, but I've never read it before. I don't know what the tone should or shouldn't be. I read this issue, and it was very, and it was intentionally non-essential.
Right.
It was intentionally mundane. Like, because the actual story of the book is that they're all in quarantine because of COVID. Mm-hmm. So you've got all of these Skype calls happening. You've got all of these. So like he's hitting in on characters that I have no idea who the hell they are, but they're just having conversation about what's school like there. How are you guys doing? Are you being safe? So this happens over and over again. And in between each one, his wife gets super, super horny for him, and they have sex. So it's this idea. I understand like the larger plot of this book, or the larger point of it is what we're doing indoors, or what we can't, like what all that's left to do is to just like survive and sleep with each other, Like, it's just, I get it. That's kind of funny, but it just was a little boring to read. It was just like, all right, cool. I like the idea of it, but it was just fine. And then of course there's a big old action scene where they, where Dragon, and I guess this is Dragon's son.
Yes, Malcolm. It's his son.
Malcolm. Yeah. He and his wife naked fight off a bunch of assassins that show up. Yeah. And he rips him in half. Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming that's supposed to be the other character's foot. But maybe it's not. I don't know.
Wait. Yeah, look at the other leg. Yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't even notice that. You're right.
But there's some wild art in here, like things dripping and
lots of dripping.
And I'm like, all right. I didn't know that this was that kind of book. So, all right.
Oh, well, to what JD said, he read the first 75 issues. I probably stayed with Savage Dragon through the first 150 issues. No, maybe not that long, but definitely into the 100s. And it's a book that I will celebrate, that was never afraid. Eric Larson was never afraid of changing the book on a dime.
Yeah.
Having things happen in real time. And he was never afraid. He was upfront. I write my book for me. So I'm not saying necessarily it's an adult only book, but just know that I'm an adult writing it for me, and take your lead from there. And with that, it was sexual, It would they would go. I mean, there's famously an issue where the original Savage Dragon takes on God and basically
Oh,
gives God the middle finger
that was
in the
awesome.
book. But he has always in his artwork, it's been like problematic is not the word for it. I mean, like if you'll notice in this book, there are tons of protruding uh, breasts through shirts
Nipples.
and
It's a lot of
nipple.
TNA.
Even the robot,
lot
even
of
the
TNA.
robot has like hard nips the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
Like-
I mean, and that's just what he does, dog. And so yes, did he lean in on it on this one? Is it purposefully mundane? Yes. Do I get what he's trying to do? Yes. I don't think artistically, Eric Larsen's never been the strongest artist in the world. And I think this book suffers because of that, because there's no like he's having these Zoom calls, but there's no really design sense to give you the idea that it actually is a Zoom call outside of saying that it's a Zoom call.
I was very impressed with this one page that I already showed earlier, where they're having you can see the two different Zoom calls happening, and the floor, it designates what's happening.
Right.
I thought this was a great page layout.
Yeah,
and it
that
showed
is.
the two different families.
Hmm.
But yeah, let's go ahead.
But that's that one page. Then
Yeah.
a lot of the other pages are just one person, usually a woman, standing in something tight or revealing in full shot, and then just a whole bunch of stuff, conversation happening on the other side.
Yeah.
I like JD. I want to celebrate Eric Larsen for reaching this. For the most part, he has written and drawn all of these 250 issues over these 28 years, and that is something to be celebrated because you don't have that anymore. But it also, you got to call it out for what it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of this.
And in today's climate,
Don't scroll down and you could see like upper skirt. Yeah.
in today's climate, in today's world, dog, you can't be doing that, man. You can't be doing that, and I don't know whether or not this book has an all ages. Like there should be some type of warning on the front of this book.
Oh yeah, there should
And
like
And
mature
I'm not sure
readers
if there
only.
is.
Well,
I'm not sure if there is.
Let's talk about that. Like,
Nope.
I am not I'm not a prude about things. It's just for me, there has to be a reason as to why. Like, what are you trying to say by doing X, Y, and Z?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
it's, I guess he just wants to draw the detail of a woman's lower region for no, like, just because there's no
Yeah.
story reason why. Like,
None.
who are the you guys that have read a bunch of Savage Dragon? Who are the spider ladies that shoot webs out of their hoo-has? Because this is my favorite line in the entire book. His wife says, "Stop watching porn." I'm not watching porn. You're watching girls squirting goo out of their hoo-has. That's porn.
I
Why?
forget. She is an actual character, like in that
Oh, there's
Savage
two of
Dragon
them.
universe.
Just squirting things
Her name is Web Spinner.
Yeah,
on the nose. Yeah.
literally. And technically, she literally does spin webs like a spider would.
That's
So
Oh,
you know,
yeah. No, I know. I mean, look, the fake anatomy aside, it's still it's still weird. And he calls it out as weird in the book. So it's just like he knows what he's doing, but I don't personally as a reader, I don't understand what he's trying to say other than people be effing.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's your thing.
I think the sex positivity that JD mentioned is also like not countering what anything that you guys have said, but like I just think it's another good element to
Yeah.
keep in mind, you know, concurrently.
Because at no point is anyone forced to do anything that they don't want to do. Like the
Right.
characters are in love, they're married,
yeah.
and it's just it's COVID time, and they're just like, well, time to get it on. Hey, robot robot maid, watch the kids so we can have fun.
And they find fun ways to do it. So I'm all with that. It's just the artwork, the depiction of it.
It's
is
gratuitous.
just very gratuitous.
None of it is offensive. It's just gratuitous, and I don't understand necessarily why it's gratuitous, other than the artist just wanting to draw that much detail. So there's a disconnect with how I'm supposed to receive it, because other than him wanting to do that, I don't know why it's or how it serves the story.
I guess also it is the reality of what would be taking place in the story that he's telling, right? Just because when people have sex, they see each other naked, right? Gratuitous is in the eye of the beholder, and it is presented just as you would see it, but it is certainly not as art is commonly presented. I don't know.
I also think of things like, is it an American problem that we're having? Because, you look at books like Heavy Metal or 2000 AD and stuff like that, or other nations' comic book work is very similar.
I don't know. There's a difference between full frontal nudity and literally depicting a stream of excrement coming out of, or excitement coming out of somebody when they're jumping through the air.
Yeah.
Like,
there is a difference. Yeah.
The difference is gratuity. Like the purpose of depicting it in such a way. This has nothing to do with just showing a naked woman.
Yeah.
It's showing a naked woman in a gratuitous fashion that doesn't serve the story or what you're trying to, like, she's just so horny.
Well, also, it's not just
really weird.
It's not just drawing a woman. It's drawing every
woman.
That's
what it. Yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to this one. I was interested. I just didn't get to it. My thing is, do you also see Savage Dragon naked? Like,
Nope.
Do you see his penis?
You see his butt.
You see his butt? See, that's what, if you were going to show a woman completely nude, like, why wouldn't he also? But I didn't read it, so I didn't see, I don't know how the story played out or what have you.
Oh, he's definitely the Michael Bay of comic book artists, where it's all gratuitous images of a woman, the sexualization of the woman's form in this. And to Noel's point about like some books like your like Heavy Metal and things of that nature, yeah, there are books that will be a little blatant with their full frontal nudity, or maybe even, let's say, a little gratuitous. And you know what those books will have? They'll have a label on the front of them that says that that's what it is.
This book needs a label for sure.
This book doesn't have that label.
Agreed.
Yeah, the label would be good for people's expectations. JD, I had a question for you.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, that's right. In the old days, artists they couldn't just do art; they had to eat, so they got patrons to pay for their art. And I wondered if there's anything here in the modern time that if people wanted that experience of paying for art, that they could get that.
I'm so glad you asked this, Brian.
Well, thank you.
Specifically, no one else has to listen to this, but Brian, for you, if you specifically want to help out the show, you could go to patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo and help us out that way.
Ah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'll tell anybody else if they ask.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to. It's really this information is secret, and it's just for Brian.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Let's move on to the last book. Strange Adventures #3, Tom King, Mitch Gerrits, Evan Doc Shaner. Can Adam Strange handle the truth? After the cosmic adventurer was accused of murder and had his whole record as a soldier questioned, he turned to the Batman for help clearing his name. But someone else was needed to ensure that the investigation would be truly impartial. Enter Mr. Terrific, the man for whom fair play is a credo to live by. Be careful what you wish for, Adam Strange, because your life is about to be turned upside down. Just like the Fresh Prince's. This could be one of the greatest tests you've ever faced, like when you had to provide yourselves in Rand's gladiatorial arena. This adventure between two worlds continues with Mitch Gerrits drawing the gritty Earth sequences and Doc Shaner showing us the splendor of Adam Strange's battles in outer space. This book is so goddamn good, which is strange because I don't like Tom King for the most part. but this book is fantastic. There is insidiousness to it. I don't know what's happening. I don't know who to believe, but I am 100% engaged. I'm enjoying it. The art is wonderful. The layouts are great. I do prefer the Evan Doc Shaner panels to the Mitch Gerrard's panels, but they are both excellent. And they're telling an engaging and mysterious story that I'm curious to see how it wraps up. What did you guys think? No.
Oh, I thought this was awesome. I thought this was just straight up wonderful. It's got me on the edge of my seat. I actually as much as I love the Doc Shaner stuff, I actually almost prefer the Mitch Gerrard stuff. I love how he depicts. This couple. I love how his facial acting is just so spectacular to me.
Yeah.
I love how he depicts Shayna.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't over sexualize her, but she's so confident that she's incredibly appealing.
Alana?
You mean Alana?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like I didn't know her name before this issue. So yeah.
Same.
But
and I had to double check that.
just in general, like I love Jared's acting, and I love Doc Shaner's action. So like this is just the most wonderful package. Yeah, like just
Dude, straight up blowing smoke in Batman's face.
Yeah, talking at Batman like that is just such a baller move.
Yeah.
I love these characters, and I don't know anything about them or if they're on the level or not, which I think is great. Like all this stuff that we're seeing from Doc Shaner, the flashbacks, I have no idea if these are accurate. Like this could just be an unreliable narrator telling us made up stories, which I think is just a really, really great way to tell a story. Just kind of keep you interested. Yeah. Doc Shaner. This book is awesome.
Yeah. I really like it. Len.
I'm enjoying it. It's playing out like a nice little mystery story. So that's what I'm enjoying. I like the little Justice League cameos. Hawkman, Superman, and even the Batman at the end. I do like this kind of like 21st century reimagining of the whole tale of Adam Strange. I mean, because the legend of Adam Strange is that he's this guy who disappears for a time, and we Earth are meant to believe that he's off on Ran having these adventures because he tells us so. None of us went to Ran, you know. So I'm actually digging it, and I like what he's doing with Alana primarily because no one has done anything with Alana ever. So that she actually has a personality, I'm enjoying. And it makes sense that she will be ride or die for her husband because she knows the real. Y'all know what he's telling you. I know the real. Why? Because I'm there with him. That's what a ride or die wife will do. So I am liking their dynamic. I'm not that big of a fan of Mr. Gerard. To me, he does a lot too much copy and paste for me with some of his imaging, but for the most part it is kind of cool. I can live with his adventures. The other art is like crazy enjoyable. Like this is like the best one of the best animated things on the in the comics next to anything by Nick Darrington. It is really fun.
That alien is awesome. That alien design is so incredibly awesome. It's like a furry mantis warrior thing, and it's awesome.
But I like the character designs of them, and they all have faces that not only show ferocity but also show inquisitiveness when he cuts to the people like in the stands just watching them battle. I'm really enjoyed it. The sad part about it is that like it's being introduced is written in pieces, and that if you scroll over on and it's just like this is some good stuff. This is some good stuff.
Have any of you guys read Tom King and Mitch Gerrard's Sheriff of Babylon?
I read the first issue for the podcast years ago.
It's a wonderful, wonderful book, but there's a main character, a female main character in it called named Sophia. So her Americanized name is Sophie. she very much reads like Alana in this.
Huh.
An incredibly competent, shrewd when necessary, but careful, like caring woman, and it made me really, really appreciate what he's trying to do. I would highly suggest that book for somebody, though.
Nice.
I had a different take on this. So first of all, the art is awesome. The cover is amazing, and like this scene where Superman and Adam Strange see the alien thing. Great art. I read this book with horror as it unfolds, because it's just like gross and grimy, like you say, Insidious. There are stories where I would be, all right, that's good, it's well told. It's a well told story. Why is Adam Strange on TV? Why did he write a book defending himself? Why is he not the hero Adam Strange? You know, like, I mean, Alana's characterization is good, except for the parts where she's dives into that part of things, like, you know, the more insidious aspects of things. Aaliyah, their daughter, I think they gave away to the Picts to secure a peace treaty. You know, something bad happened to Adam Strange and Alana's daughter, that he used to go have fun sci-fi adventures. That there's a question on the cover of Amazing Science Fiction ? And I don't know. Batman, it's Thomas Wayne, is bad in the Batman book. Wally West turned out to kill everyone, and now Adam Strange is not so great. And I mean, why? Why is this the case? You know,
I just want to hug you.
That this is a good. Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Noel. And it's like, would I feel this way if it was some character that I never heard of? You know, like you guys. Maybe not. I still wouldn't be super into the daughter problem that is building. You know, what looks like the pivotal issue of this whole story is what's going on with Aaliyah.
Yeah.
But you know, I might be more into it if it was somebody that I never heard of. Like when you said Sheriff of Babylon, I was like, I'd check that out. That sounds cool. You know, those aspects, those story themes are not the story themes that I really like to indulge in. From time to time, I can read one and be like, oh, that was well done. That was cool. I like Adam Strange being like a bright, fun guy, the hero of Ran, you know. So, you know, it's a Black Label book. Maybe they'll do it. It'll be a cool story, and nobody will ever pick up on any of these threads again.
Oh yeah, I'm sure this is out of continuity.
Also, too, like I don't know if these two things can't be true at the same time. So this is a specific perspective about his adventures. It doesn't negate the adventures he had before. It's just like the shadow of that brightness. Like I don't like. I think that they're trying to make a case for him maybe not being as honest as he seems to be.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's the point of the story, or that it's going to I don't think that it's going to be revealed that he's really like a murderer that did this awful thing.
No, I bet it's way more complex than that. And it's way more like, look, your heroes are people too, and they had a horrible thing happen, right? And like I said, it's not like those stories I can't get behind sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm a little like, yeah, you can look at anything in a negative way. You know what I mean? And of course, if there is a real negative thing that happened, like sometimes some dude killed somebody or did some awful thing that he really shouldn't have done. That's not just perspective, but it remains to be seen, you know, how this will play out.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? But I mean, if he maintains his regular position in the regular DC universe, I'm down.
Main DC universe, as in barely existing.
That's what I was about to say. What is his position in the DC universe? He has no position in the DC universe. He's basically been sitting someplace off in limbo, bait bent over waiting for somebody to come and fuck with him because nobody's doing nothing with him. So now Thomas King is over there. It's like, yo, bro, I got you, dog. Let me handle you. Let me give you some of this real good. You know what I'm saying?
Wait, look. Can I make an observation?
Yeah.
Not like to call you out, but it seems as though this made you uncomfortable.
It did.
And I think that that's actually pretty awesome. I love the fact that this made you uncomfortable because it made you uncomfortable in like an emotional way, not just like no, I don't like this. Like it was just like, what are they doing to my character? To me, that makes it an even more successful issue.
So I thought of that argument exactly, and I thought there is the skill of the writer and his ability to do that, and then there is reading a story that I like, and that is important too. And this is not meant as a come down on what you said, but just like I think in analysis of this kind of thing, we sometimes prioritize the skill of the writer, like, wow, they got you to feel this way. But also important to me is, well, how do I feel?
Yeah.
And like, did I like the story? But I'm with you. Like, that is a good story as well. It's not just what are they doing with Adam Strange, but that is a big element of it. You know what I mean? There are other elements where I'm like, why is it like this? Why is it not just he's good?
Like, anecdotally, a crude example of that is my mother hates Meryl Streep. Mm-hmm. She explicitly hates Meryl Streep because of how big of a bitch she was in Kramer 40 years ago. And I'm like, Mom, that makes her one of the best actresses. You still hold a grudge about a fictional character.
Yeah.
You hate her because she's so good. And like you have like these emotional aversions to something because they're so successful at averting. Right? Okay? I think that's really good.
I don't hate Tom King. I want to give him a hug, right?
Yeah.
Like you were hugging me earlier. I want to snuggle up Tom King and be like,
I want to snuggle up Tom King. What hurt you?
Oh, hello.
Hey, Melly G.
Yeah.
Hey, Mel.
Gotta talk. Well, it's time. It's time for the second part of the show where we do Gotta Talk. Which was a show that Len and I would do every week where we would talk about the periphery of the pop culture world and things that were going on around comic books and movies and what have you. And we decided to fold that into the podcast that you're now watching. But Noel, you had received a correspondence from a listener. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? And then we can move on.
Carl Carls, friend of the show, had messaged us or messaged me based off of the Thunder Run that we did this previous week or earlier this week, where I got to talk about Amazing Spider-Man run by J. Michael Straczynski, which included an issue that we didn't talk about when we were talking about it. So he chimed in with his 2 cents. I will read it. He didn't approve this for air, but whatever. Hey Noel, I just listened to your Thunder Round on JMS's Spider-Man, and I have up on it. I gave up on it after the 9/11 issue, which is actually like 4 issues into the run. So
wow,
he gave up on it early. Not a big fan of using tragedy for entertainment. More to the point, have issues with fictional characters being used during an actual tragedy. Feels like trying to profit off the pain and suffering of others. I know that's more about me than anything else, so I have not revisited the series since walking away. I had heard that it had petered out despite its strong beginning, and I had often thought I should go back and try and give it another chance, but just haven't. So the idea that he very early on in the run was put off by the 9/11 issue, which again happens. I could double check, but it happens like 4 or 5 issues into the run, which is very early on. That turned him off completely. And he never revisited it.
So my response to that is, having read it when it first happened, I thought it felt to me, I've also was kind of, as privy as anyone who's not in the industry can be, privy to sort of the conversations that were happening. And it seemed like it was not a cash grab where it was like, oh, let's do an issue involving 9/11 so that everyone will buy it. But it did feel to me like an honest response to a tragedy that happened. And it was their way of dealing with it and writing and drawing a thing to work their emotions around it. It didn't feel like a cash grab to me. It felt genuine, and it definitely wasn't something that I think was supposed to be taken as the characters inside the Marvel Universe were actually dealing with it, but just for a way for the creators to have a little bit of therapy.
Yeah.
And, I remember kind of laughing with friends about Dr. Doom. There's a scene where Dr. Doom, like a single tear falls and he's like there at ground zero for 9/11. And it just felt kind of disingenuous because he's Dr. Doom, who is responsible for countless murders. And, so obviously that was a way of saying like, hey, this isn't really the characters. This is just us making a statement about this event. And I was glad that they did it. I felt like it would have been more callous if Spider-Man kept swinging through the city and having a grand old time without dealing with 9/11. So that was the way I took it. I haven't reread it since then. It's not something I've wanted to revisit, but I wonder how it holds up now.
I have an opinion on that because I just read it. It's 6 issues in, by the way. It's issue number 36, and his run starts with 30. So it's one arc, and then you've got this. The plot of the story is 9/11 happens, and Spider-Man doesn't know how to react.
Oh, that double page spread. Oof.
Yeah.
It is a very powerful. Like artistically, John Romita Jr. just, as a New Yorker, draws the shit out of this issue. Yeah. But it is Spider-Man going through and just trying to save as many people as he can from falling debris, and helps a small child find their parents who are not alive. But it reads as a frantic response to a tragedy, which is and in the back matter of this volume, they talk about the inception of the issue. It was not planned. Yeah,
that'd be weird.
Yeah,
if it was.
I mean, they weren't not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
But then JMS, over the course of like 24 hours, was just like, I wrote something. Can we do this? So it is a very guttural reaction using fictional characters. Spider-Man just kind of flies around the city, helping whoever he can, and constantly kind of talking about the real heroes who were the first responders.
Yeah.
The issue itself it's weird to separate the event with the issue. How it handles the event, were I to have read it in 2001, it would have been effective. It would have been emotionally effective.
It was for me.
Yeah.
Reading it now, it's very platitudinal. It's got a tinge of nationalism. And then the whole back half is essentially JMS's kind of we're all one race word vomit, which is something that he felt he needed to get out. So by that, it's great, but it doesn't age in a timeless, emotional way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's very, very dated because it's very, very specific. And it doesn't take that extra step of talking about the ramifications or working towards the ramifications of a large global event like that. It just kind of talks about how I felt in the moment, which, I mean, effective more or less. It's very interesting. Yeah.
What Spider-Man is, he is a ground level character affected by what's happening then and there. Yeah. And so I read it at the time, and like you said, it's a quick response of a guy who wanted to tell the story. I always felt like it doesn't make sense at all. Some of the kinds of things that they go through, right? It's one of those real world things that they are reacting as you in the real world would react, not how they would react to this kind of thing. And it kind of reminds me with Doctor Doom of like the mobsters teaming up to fight Nazis, you know, where in like the Rocketeer, I think, where it's like, well, hey, we're bad guys, but we wouldn't do something like that. It doesn't make sense at all compared to everything else Doctor Doom has done. But, you know, you hit the nail on the head, I think, JD, where it's, you know, these are the creators speaking through these characters. And at the time, I thought it was a good tribute, you know, but, you know, I probably won't reread it.
The most effective part of the whole issue was towards the end. There's Spider-Man is helping out, and he sees Captain America in the distance. This is pre-New Avengers, so they've never really worked together other than whatever.
Yeah.
Sees Captain America helping just remove girders, like just helping with cleanup.
Yeah.
That was the most effective part of the whole issue, because it's this idea of a icon just doing what he can, not thinking he's above anything or below anything, just helping. That was effective, and that felt timeless. But then the issue wraps up with, you know, Doctor Doom crying and a bunch of splash pages of first responders, which is great, but it just feels, I think Carl's kind of jumps on it in that way, where at that point, in hindsight, it starts to feel agenda-ish.
Hey, Noel, while you have it there, can you just do me a favor and see if the Juggernaut shows up in that issue? No, and I'm going to throw it to Len. I haven't heard from Len. What's up, bud?
I remember looking at the book. I don't think I read it at the time. I remember around that time, both Marvel and DC had done these big compendiums of like 9/11 stories. No. Was it Marvel and DC, and then the Independents did one? I don't know. I collected those. I don't have anything to add.
Oh, this is rough. It's really rough. It's hard separating personal experience with the effectiveness of the issue. Reading it for the first time 20 years after the event gave me an interesting perspective.
Yeah. I do remember, like, in the wake of what had happened, and considering that this was, you know, there is nothing that will match the sight of what happened on that day on 9/11, when like the whole world stopped. And I think it was so much more even so for us in America, because probably that's the first time that it is, if not the first time in a long time that violence had been inflicted upon us in such a grand scale. It's so visible. And other countries they've had this, you know, a bomb dropped on Hiroshima. You know, there have been Paris and Germany and London have been torn asunder by, you know, rockets and bombs, and had people waging war in their streets. We've had war in our streets in the United States. It was us against us for the most part. You know what I mean? Or the people that were here already. So this was the first time that we really just had this big attack. So the stories that came out in the wake of that, in the comics and even in fiction, yes, some of them did have a little bit of a nationalistic bent to them, because everybody was feeling more like, you know, rah, arm in arm with one another. And looking at that 20 years later, that can give you a really bad taste in your mouth. Certainly. I
mean, especially with
the climate.
So there's a couple of panels in here of, you know, big burly white dudes with flag bandanas on, and 20 years ago that was supporting, you know, one culture in the wake of a tragic event. Now that's
totally different context.
Shitty, awful people using patriotism as a way to, you know, subvert or oppress, which I can't not have that like there's there's a bunch of construction workers wearing like American flag masks, and it immediately makes me think of fuckers marching on state capitals because they were with AK-47s and flags on them because they refused to wear masks. So it's very difficult for me to not see the dangers of blind nationalism without loving your country and your culture and your patriotism, right?
I mean, there was some of that then too. Like immediately afterwards, there was that stuff that was the dark side of the reaction.
As a guttural response to a tragic event, this is great. As a something that is revisited in like a time capsule kind of way.
Yeah,
it's not great.
Yeah. Like I remember I was talking to you about the books that I had, where the collection of the short stories, and I had those books forever. I saved them, I bought them. They were on my shelves forever. And then one day, years later, I said, you know what? I guess these are nice time capsules of a moment. But because I collect comics for me, the comics I collect, I'm not going to sell. They're going to be mine until my daughter says she doesn't want them. I'm never going to read this book again, and I don't care about it. And I don't know if I sold it or if I gave it away. I didn't care. I don't know.
To answer JD's question, now that he's back, Juggernaut, Magneto, and Doom, and Kingpin are just standing there, sad.
The reason I'm asking is because there was an issue of X-Force. It was a sideways issue drawn by Todd McFarlane way back in the day, where Juggernaut tries to take down the World Trade Center.
And then also I did kind of dig this. So I dig the parts that I dig in this issue are when the heroes are just trying to help. So you've got Wolverine like cutting girders. You've got Cyclops trying to just like force move rubble. Like that's, to me, that's like practical and helpful. But like I said, you kind of missed it. The allusions to extreme patriotism have a bad taste in my mouth because of today.
Yeah,
sure,
for sure.
And even then, the extremes, like you were saying. Yeah.
Well, you know what though? In all fairness, that extreme patriotism that drove a lot of oppression was after this book. That was happening in real time. It wasn't as like permeated in the consciousness of the country.
That's true.
It was cells.
It was there, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
it didn't have the access. It didn't have the access to social media.
That's true too.
That's what propels all this stupid stuff.
So, back to the question, right?
What was the question?
No, I'm sorry.
No. I interrupted you. Back to the question. Do you guys think that this is maybe not this example of it is a cash grab, but when fictional things try and comment on or reflect real world?
Yeah, man. No, I think comic books are have a storied history of responding to things that needed to be that the creators feel they have to respond to. Going all the way back to Captain America punching Hitler in the face. When people say that things are too political in comic books, I vehemently disagree. I think that comics are a great medium to talk about these things and to express yourself and to hopefully maybe change other people's minds. That's the whole point for me with some of these books. It's not just entertainment, but it's a way to learn things, even just going back to learning how to read. There are words that I did not know how to pronounce, but I knew what they meant because I read them in a comic book.
Yeah.
There are other points of view that I am aware of because of comic books. And I think that they are a very strong resource for teaching people different things. Whether or not this particular one holds up, I'm not entirely sure it does, but I don't regret that they did it.
Yeah, but that being said, and then I'll shoot it to you, B. I saw you had your hand up. I apologize.
Not at all.
That being said, I'm not blind to the idea that the powers that be see that, okay, yeah, we'll put this story out because I think, like, yeah, writers want to tell their stories and whatever, but also it's a story that they can sell.
Hmm.
It's a story that they can get over to their readers. Because I'm not blind to the fact that have not been moments in time, past and even fairly recent, when comic book creators have been vetoed by their editorial overlords for viewpoints that they may want to share or have depicted in their comics as well.
Mm.
And, that may have a political or social uh, ramification to that the powers that be may deem not commercially viable for them at this time. So
Yeah, there's
I don't
that.
think it was a whole cash grab,
Hmm.
but trust me, they check the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think similarly, like I'm sure in the history of media, because you had asked Noel just in general, like I'm sure that some of them are callous. That was not the feeling that I had with this one, but what do I know about their motivations? I was reacting to the feelings that were put out in the book that I was reading. I believe that in times of that nature, there are people that want to help, and some of those people are artists, and they help in that way, or they try to help in that way. And people do make money off of it, and it gets into a whole thing of like, does that invalidate the original feelings of wanting to help, right? And or even the people that make money might be like, oh, and it's also good that we make money. And sometimes I think that's a good guide, right? If you're going to say to yourself, well, it's a good thing that happened because this other thing happened for me, then it is not a good thing to do, right? Like if you're ever like, oh, it's a good thing that this tragedy occurred because I made a lot of money off this book, let that be a guide to you. But if you make the book and you happen to make a lot of money off of it, I don't know, whatever you do with the money.
Well, I mean, I think this isn't almost this. I don't know if this is comparable to other political statements because this was a unifying tragedy, right?
Yeah.
So there's no danger of hurting or repelling one piece of the audience, like say,
Sure,
making a Trump joke would.
Right. Sure, that's a good point. Yeah.
This was one of those things that no one thought was a bad idea.
Well, I mean, Carl thought it was a bad idea. He stopped reading the book because of it.
That's true. And also, JD, when you had mentioned about like you learn other people's viewpoints, I'd heard about novels, and I would assume that it applies to comics also, where you have the capacity to hear a character's internal thoughts, right? And you see their point of view, their motivation. Apparently, being exposed to that tends to make people more empathetic, right? Because they are exposed to the idea that whatever they see in front of them is not necessarily the whole thing, or maybe just the idea of different perspectives and seeing them as real beings. I don't know exactly what it is, but I bet it works with comics too, if they're of that type, where you have either a narrative box or a thought bubble where they think about things,
I think experiencing things from other points of view is paramount to empathy. For instance, it's not even comic books or novels. I grew up listening to Public Enemy and Ice Cube, and as a small white boy living in Northeast Philadelphia, I was in the backyard like mowing the grass or whatever, and I would listen to these people who are espousing anger at white people that I wasn't quite aware of up until that point. So I became aware of sort of maybe different points of view when it comes to race and stuff like that. And I'm being like, man, white people did some shit, huh? I didn't know that because I don't get taught that in school. There's a lot of things that white people do that we don't get taught in school, and I had to find them out through rap albums. So yeah, I think in all sorts of mediums, listening to other different points of view is very important.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. And because I went to a Catholic school growing up, which was pretty mixed. I don't know if it was predominantly white. I don't really remember, but we certainly had a fair share of white people there. But then when I went to high school, I went to high school with the brothers. So, like, if you remember, what of well, I guess it's the popular stuff that's taught in high school or school, right? It's you're taught slavery because you can't get away from slavery,
Right.
and you can't get away from the that was the reason for the Revolutionary War. Um, but and I guess you're taught about Martin Luther King being killed. I don't remember being taught about Malcolm X. I read about Malcolm X. I was
Mhm.
not taught about Malcolm X at all.
You hardly get past like World War II. Usually, is the problem with that was at least my
Yeah.
experience. You know.
Yeah, history
Yeah.
is usually all the way up to World War II, and then
Yeah.
the last 2 weeks of school is literally the 50 years after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Martin Luther King is mentioned, you're aware of him, and like he is a special exception to the timeline. You know, like so you get taught about that, but
We're not taught about Tulsa. We're not taught about Rosewood.
Right.
We're not taught about
There's some
black
shit
art. We're not taught
World War
about
II,
music.
too.
Nothing. We're not
You know?
taught about jazz. We're not taught about any cultural relevance of the black community in high school.
That's a shame. To be fair, the Tulsa story is not taught in most schools, period, either. You kind of like learn that from just being in the culture, being a black
From the
person.
Watchmen TV show, most of it.
Well, a fair number. You're right. You're very true.
I mean,
But,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but it is curious. I'm always amazed, and again, this gets down to the whole idea of privilege. But I'm always amazed at how much of the white experience in the world everyone is assumed to know and is seen as the default experience. Yet when shown something else, so many white people, certainly not my learned colleagues here, see is like, oh, I didn't know that, but well, I guess there's an exception to every rule. No, there's always the other side of the goddamn story. And that is the definition of white privilege, not ever having to assume that there's another side of the story, because your history, your viewpoint has been for so long the default position, so much so that you want to not only take it as your default position here in America, but that when you travel overseas into other countries, you are still expected to be the default position. And that's what pisses everybody the fuck off about white people in general.
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. No, it's very difficult. Trying to explain. I have family members who don't understand or realize what white privilege is, and their comeback is, what I've struggled through to do X, Y, and Z, which is accurate and doesn't diminish the work that they did to struggle. However, just the very basis of existence being afforded X, Y, and Z, whether you struggled or not, is inherently white privilege. The fact that I've never been followed in a store, the fact that I've never worried when being pulled over, the fact that I could talk back to cops and it's fine, the fact that my moving in and out of an area won't adjust the value of homes, the fact that I like all of these privileges based off of nothing that I've ever done is white privilege.
I could shoot up an entire congregation and be taken in safely into custody. But if I sell some cigarettes on the side, I might get choked to death.
I mean,
even calling those things privileges, though, those are not privileges. Those are rights that are being taken from other people. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that is the monstrosity of it. Len, you mentioned, and I think it's like right at the core, the default right? You think of the people in power, the white people, often they think of themselves as the default position of humanity, the standard human. On everything else is a variation, and that is incorrect. There are no standard humans, or we're all standard humans, and how do we remove that? How do we acclimatize that point?
Even just growing up, here's a very tiny example. Even just growing up, I would ask for if I'm coloring something, I would ask for the skin-colored crayon, which was not brown.
Yeah.
Yep. I had a very weird experience. Like, I had weird experiences throughout all of high school because I went to a predominantly white high school in Florida, because it's Florida. To the point where I was the other, having Mexican heritage with all of my white friends.
Oh.
It's so weird that in the absence of binary choices of like other and race, and they'll take, like, the group think will take the next possibility to fill that slot. So like, I mean, I'm very white. I pass very white. That's not a problem. However, just having that much cultural heritage in me made me the other, like that vacuum. So like the default of knowing that you're white and you are, the base, the default, filling any void or taking anything to fill the void of the other because you can't exist on an equal playing field. That's inherently a privilege that's just learned, right? It's just there.
I think we do that. What I've heard from sociologists, right, is that othering strengthens the group of everybody else, right? And I think there's a not binary, but I think there's that is happening. And I think that one of the ways that we identify the world is, how is it different from me, right? And there's this much same as me, this much different from me, right? And I think that's where, like, the often honest mistake of thinking that other looking groups of people all look the same, right? Because you can more easily identify the differences in things that are similar to you. And that, combined with our desire to other, but not having a tribe right over there next to our tribe to say those are the bad guys and stick with, that it comes out as, like the blue-eyed, brown-eyed experiment is a classic example where give somebody a way to do that and they'll do it. They'll group up and it feels good to be in our group. It's a lot of these, it's so hard to untangle because some of them are just how we think. Some of them are responses to evolutionary issues, like so long ago, that are no longer serving us now that we recognize that everyone who thinks and talks and feels is a person, or hopefully a lot of people.
I'm about to say, hopefully we are.
Yeah.
I mean, anthropologically, it was a crude way of strengthening groups by demonizing or just othering.
Sometimes literally demonizing. I had a professor that told me once that they would say the other tribes, they did not believe that they were human. They believed that they were some sort of monster, in their ignorance, and maybe partially with a survival kind of thing going on. This was not the world we live in now. This was the world where
I
join up.
I find the notion of bigotry. Or it's fascinating that the perhaps the origin of it all is to strengthen your tribe, to strengthen the unity of your group, your tribe, your unit, is to demonize or create villains that don't exist.
Yeah,
and that is still pervasive in culture, even though we are better.
And if we could just be one tribe, solution, right?
Well, I mean,
that.
Let's bring this back to comic books. The end of Watchmen. The whole idea that to create or to quell division within the human race was to create or fabricate this new other, this transdimensional thing at the very end.
Yeah. That was his big trick. Hey, absolutely.
Even the movie, which I actually do like the twist at the end of the movie. They othered, instead of creating like this giant octopus with all kinds of artists and stuff, they made it John Osterman. Like, they made Doc Manhattan
the other.
Other. Like they set him up in such a way. That's super fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of strong feelings about this stuff, and I'm a loquacious person by nature. But Lynn, I want to hear something from you if you have something.
Dude. First of all, my heartbeat is still going down from my little rant.
Yeah.
So mind you, I haven't taken my blood pressure medicine, so I'm just like, whew, just letting off the steam a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like all this shit, man. Look, there's one of the things that I have been feeling lately, and I think it's because I recently rewatched Band of Brothers, right? The HBO series, right? Great series. But and it's about the Easy Company, the actual Easy Company in World War II. And it decidedly, because World War II is probably the last war that had a clear black and white enemy, the Germans. They were the enemy. The Nazis. Thank you. Exactly. Yeah. To be more to the point, the Nazis are decidedly the enemy of that war. And in the aftermath of that, how nothing Nazi has been celebrated at all in Germany, where it started. And to think that where it started, this evil of the world that it is agreed upon by the world was evil, needed to be eradicated. So much so that the people in that country have banned any mention of it, any idea of it, any iconography of it. They've banned it. Yet in America, it is not only celebrated in factions, it is held up as the standard bearer for some of the people here in America. And we are supposed to be cool with that. We've agreed that the mindset of this is evil. The world has agreed. Everybody joined against it. Yet in America, we are supposed to still celebrate that you can still wrap that be the flag that you wrap yourself around, and we're supposed to be good with it. I mean, at some point, it's what Germany did is they said we're going to have a reckoning with what happened here, and at some point, America has to have a reckoning with the shit that has happened here under your watch, white people, because you, as much as you don't want to be, you are going to be the next Nazis that everyone agrees is the fucking evil that needs to be wiped off of this planet. And I don't want that. I love everybody. I got love for everybody, and I especially got love for the white people that are in my life. You're in my life because I love you. I love you all dearly. But I'm telling you, y'all need to whisper in the ears of y'all brothers and y'all sisters, because they're gonna fuck it up for y'all.
I mean,
I'm telling y'all right now.
They already have. Look, they already have. So you're talking about, first of all, yes. Second of all, not only is it celebrated in factions, it's protected by everyone else. Just based off of our culture, based off of the amendments, it is protected for them to be as fucking stupid as they want to be. All right? That is something that Americans can't necessarily backpedal on. However, we have broken a social contract with each other to protect each other from those factions of stupidity and evil. We have mixed up the idea of protecting someone's rights to be an asshole. We've mixed it up with allowing somebody to socially be an asshole as much as humanly possible. Those are two totally separate things. Culturally and societally, we should be able to be like, no, not fucking here. Go away. Go in your little corner, and you need to know publicly, you need to be shamed publicly that what you believe in is asinine and wrong and shitty. We don't do that. That does not impede on someone's rights to be an asshole. We just have broken that social contract to tell them, to inform them that this is wrong. As a society, we have not done that, which is infuriating.
Yeah, I feel that freedom is paramount, right? I feel that freedom is a building block upon which, a building block. I just feel I have tried to think of like a system of morality defined by personal freedom, right, and allowed to do whatever. And I also wonder as to the practicality of it, right? When you ban something, ideas are hard to ban, right? And the way that we need to beat that, it's like guns. I think everybody should be allowed to have a gun and nobody should want one, right?
Right.
We should get to, we need to defeat it as an idea. We need to show why it sucks. And that everyone should be allowed to have a Nazi flag and nobody should want one, right?
Yeah,
that's the world that and just because that freedom is paramount. And that symbol also, that is an old symbol. It used to mean something really good.
It doesn't matter.
I know.
It does not matter at all.
And I want it to come back. And I wonder if I'm thinking of it in a physical term, right? If it's banned, it's below the surface. And I am not advocating like, oh, it's good that they're assholes out in public. That way we know. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like rooting it out, right?
Yeah, I feel like as a society, we've failed to inform these factions of people that what you believe is pernicious, is asinine, is wrong, is unpopular, is like however to get to them. That's rooted. That's the rooted part. The fact that these beliefs hide in the corners. So banning it, like you say, banning the freedoms of these people to be assholes just makes it stronger in a martyrdom kind of way. Whereas if we publicly, as a unified, like, look, let's other them. Let's make them ashamed of their.
I want to other the idea, right? I think that I want them not to think it either, right? And I don't know that when you to oppose a thing is to maintain it. Ursula K. Le Guin said, right? And to oppose a thing sometimes is also to beat it the fuck down and stop it. So it's a tightrope to walk, you know?
Right.
But I think freedom of expression is so great. I look at all of the times that other freedoms of expression have not been allowed, right? That were considered by society to be bad. Homosexuality to be a sin. And there were times when that was banned, you know? And it's not like I want to support, obviously, these bad things. You know, and also maybe it's important to say that I am Jewish, and one of the differences is that I don't have to say that. Everyone can see that Len is black, right? And so for this conversation, I debated bringing it up or not because my perspective on the swastika is not necessarily right or wrong because of that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is a good thing to say, and now I've said it. But the possibility that we are always wrong, right, is important to me, and that is inherent to freedom, right? Because other people will get it wrong, but I might be wrong too. So I need to allow that kind of expression, even though I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong right now about this one.
I really do, but I really do think that it's a cultural thing.
Yeah,
we don't need to ban. We don't need to outlaw. We need to shame and inform. And a lot of times, I feel like the current generation is a loss, but their children aren't. Right? Mm-hmm. Like the world as it gets smaller and smaller and social media becomes more prevalent in telecommunications and being informed as opposed to the past, even 20 years ago, where people in their bubbles, they could literally live in a cabin and not know about anything other than what their parents taught them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like there are days when I think that this generation is just lost. All of these fuckers are going to have their swastikas and we're screwed. However, I don't think that their children and their children's children are lost yet. I don't think like, so it may not be the battle we fight today so much as the good that we put into the investment that we put into what happens next, which fucking sucks. It's not fair, but
it is always how it has been. And Yeah, I used to think that it was a longer, a more linear line, and now that I see it's jagged, right?
The
You
pendulum.
know, yeah, but I think it's still pointing upwards. I think we're still getting better, and the sharing of information is something that we don't know what to do with it yet, right? We don't, as humans, we don't have defenses against seeing what is misinformation there, like we used to against the kinds of information we were used to. We don't know what is going on with the new spread of information, but it's also done a lot of good things, and it's brought a lot of good communities together and empowered them. And I think that we'll get there. And I think I brought it up on the show before, and you may almost definitely know it, but the Martin Luther King quote that the moral arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice.
Mhm.
I'm thinking recently that look at the flat earthers, right? They don't think they're on a sphere because it looks flat. A long arc looks like it's not going in the direction that it's going, you know? And I hope that is true. And I hope it's shorter than he envisioned. Yeah.
Well, isn't there also like I don't know if it's a theory or just something great I read. Every time that there is a spike in these kinds of social atrocities, whether that's Trump or Charlottesville or whatever, every time that there's a spike, it's almost a societal reminder of how awful things were because you fuckers were complacent. And things improve. Like it's a net positive. Like we get these historically we get these spikes of abject awfulness, but it works as a net positive over the course of like another generation because you're like, you know, there's kids today that are straight up adults fighting in Afghanistan that weren't alive for 9/11.
Yeah.
Like they're the actions of a generation. Yeah. I mean, you're old, we're old. It happens.
Yeah.
The idea that we as a culture have to experience this bullshit to be reminded of how we can be as better. Right. Or things improve past the baseline because of the atrocity, which again is fucking awful.
Right.
But if you want to be a silver lining type of person, like the fact that this administration, whatever you believe, has mobilized so many people to oppose, and that is a positive thing. Unheard voices from before that were either complacent or silent or indifferent are no longer. Right?
My favorite is when, you know, people who poo-poo these young protesters because they're kids. They're just young. Guess who's going to age?
Right.
Yeah.
And take your jobs. Who's gonna be, you know?
And people do sometimes get more conservative as they get older, as they have a memory to conserve, you know. But it is. I hope that it is more and more. The progress comes too, right? Things that we think are unthinkable now were common in previous eras, and that is a note of happiness. And I think that some of this may come as an inoculation, right?
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
I hope that is how we handle this as a society. You know, a mental that will be the mental change that we will be able to combat all of the misinformation and maybe even hatred a little bit more. You know.
Okay, does it. The entire white race. I need you all to grow beards and become leaves.
Len, you are so kind.
I'm in.
Oh my God, that is.
We're halfway there.
To you, or from you. I am honored. Oh my God.
I'm sorry. Grow beards and become leaves.
Leaves.
Brian.
Yeah.
Leaves.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to be a little Brian. We need a little bit more Brian in us.
You know, I feel like in a way, if you don't look around the world and you say everyone would be better if they were more like me, then just be better. You know. But I hope and I solemnly believe that there are many other people who you would be good to emulate. But Len, my God, that is such. Thank you.
Just Brian.
Right.
Yeah,
That's it.
Don't cry.
Oh, I get a little bit.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Sam. Hi.
Anything else before we break?
Go ahead, Noel.
There's a comic coming.
This conversation started with the 9/11 issue of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yo, I really liked it. I really enjoyed this talk. I feel fulfilled by this talk, I think is a more accurate way to put it. And JD, you should check it out.
Oh yeah, I'll have to rewatch it.
Yeah.
I was helping customers.
Oh, and there's a comet right near the Big Dipper at sunset tonight through Friday. If you can see the horizon, I've tried a couple of times and I haven't been. So tonight, I think I'm going to try to drive outside of the city to see that. It's called Comet Neowise. 6,800 years from now is the next time that it's supposed to come by.
Wow.
Well, scheduled to, supposed to, isn't it enough forever?
It might be late, give or take a couple hundred.
Yeah,
No,
give or take
it's thing, right? It's doing comet deals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's got comet business.
yeah, wheeling and dealing up in.
He's on tour. You know, sometimes they get extended.
Right. Sometimes something happens.
Sometimes they can't have an event because COVID. You don't know.
Yeah.
Shit gets delayed.
100 years from now, yeah, there's that.
So join us next week when we are back with Spoiler Alert, Gutter Talk, and Book Club. We're going to be talking about the requested Atomic Robo graphic novel. I think it's volume 3 he asked us to do. So yeah, we're going to review next week's books. We're going to have a conversation, and we're going to do a book club. It's going to be jam friggin' packed. I've been your host, Johnny Destructo. With me this week has been Len.
Hey, what's up? Yo, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you want to hear me talk about Comic-Con at home, turn to Instagram Live at 12:30 p.m. on Thursday, July 23rd, where I will be speaking with noted Philadelphia Inquirer features writer Ellen Gray, all about Comic-Con at home, giving you a preview of all the fun stuff that's going to be happening. So check that out, 12:30 this Thursday, Instagram Live on the Black Tribbles or at Philly Inquirer feed.
That's pretty fucking cool.
Thank you.
I'll go next. I have been Brian Lee, and I'll see you guys later. There is also, I don't know how to find it, an implicit bias test, right? I don't know if you guys have taken it or anyone in the audience has taken it. It's like Harvard, I believe, or MIT, some university. And it's an implicit bias test. And you go through, I took it, and I have a slight bias that I wasn't too happy about. So I actively worked to not, display it at all. But it was slight.
I'm biased that this was created by a university which tries to learn people. Fuck that.
You don't care for that?
Nah.
Book learning? Fuck that.
Implicit bias test. Type it in, and I won't say it changed my life, but it was good information to have. Nobody is without these flaws and biases that are just learned while we're trying to learn how to get through the world. And once you know about them, it's easier to never act on that. Yeah, exactly. To change your thinking style if possible. Or
is it a long test? Is it like long or anything?
It's not too long, and it's kind of fun. It's like, it's just like multiple choice kind of things. Mm-hmm. A little anxiety that goes with it because hopefully you don't want to be proven to have bias, right? So you're like a little worried. You're like, I hope I do well on this bias test.
I mean,
I want to be a good guy,
Everyone should go into it realizing that they have bias, period. Everyone is bored or learned bias.
True.
No
matter what.
It's all about how we navigate the world, and some flaws get in there.
I think it's pretty funny that maybe it's my assumption here, but I think anyone who is actively going to take a bias test is already aware that they have bias.
There's also a way to increase your empathy, and it's not hard. You want to know what it is?
Drugs.
This experiment that was done where they just showed a person's face, and you say, "May you be well." And then it switches to another person for a half hour. May you be well, right? And it was shown in this experiment to increase that person's empathy, at least right after the experiment. It would be great if everybody took it. If it's self-originated, the people who take it, it's probably still help, but you could really use it on the people who don't think they want to take it. So, yeah.
And also, Noel.
Hey, guys. If you want to check me out later, I'll still be here. That's my plug.
In his home.
Cool. Home. Can we read some of those books?
Oh
Please-
yeah. What would you like? What would you like?
Like and subscribe. We also do Thunder Rounds in the middle of the week, where we review books for 60 seconds just for Ishton giggles. All sorts of good stuff, good times. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk at you later.
Bye.